theory, where I not only try to play a game live, but I also will try to provide commentary and analysis on the game as I play it. So this one, we have a brand new game, and yeah, I just finished a very long series with Dark Souls, and I'm gonna try for this episode Assassin's Creed 4, because I've been wanting to play that for a while, and I figured it would be a good game to stream. And hopefully, if everything goes well, I will be continuing to stream it. But let's consider this stream here to be like a pilot episode. I do have some concerns with the game being too demanding on my hardware to actually play live, stream at the same time. I've already done a little bit of testing with the game to see how well my computer can handle it. I'm playing on PC, so it handles it fairly well. I do get like 30 frames per second as like a minimum. Sometimes it delves into the high 20s, but for the most part it stays around 30 to 40 frames, so I'm a little bit concerned that streaming will put too much of a stress on trying to handle the game at the same time. That's why I'm going to call it a pilot, and if everything goes well, I will continue on the series, and this will be my stream theory series game going forward. And if not, then yeah, I guess I'm going to have to pick something else, something less demanding on my hardware. So I guess before we start, this is a game that I have not played before, and like my previous games that I've tried doing criticism and analysis on live, I played Dark Souls before, and before that Alien Isolation. That was the second time I played that as well. I know that's a fairly new game. This one, Assassin's Creed 4, I never seen before. I only know what I know from reviews and just general chatter online about the game. I did just finish playing Assassin's Creed 3 yesterday. I actually played the final bit with that, and I'm ready to jump into Assassin's Creed 4. I guess I will, before I dive right in, I'll explain a little bit of what I know about the game. Even though it's called Assassin's Creed 4, it is actually the sixth game in the series, because between Assassin's Creed 2 and 3 there were two games, Brotherhood and Revelations, which were part of kind of a trilogy set off by Assassin's Creed 2 involving the assassin named Ezio. And then Assassin's Creed 3 had a new character, Connor, and now the fourth game will have another assassin following his life. You could also argue that this is actually the seventh game in the series, because there's also a PS Vita game called Liberation that came around the same time as 3, I think. So technically speaking, this is the seventh game in the series. Game is about assassination, of course. It's a third-person action game, and it is heavily involving an open world, exploring an open world, and then trying to traverse it, find your targets, and assassinate them. There are some stealth elements in the game. These are like basically my expectations of any Assassin's Creed game that I go forward. And with this one in particular, I know it is also involving a lot of naval stuff, a lot of boat stuff, which was introduced in Assassin's Creed 3, but didn't really fully center on it. In this game, I'm pretty sure more centers on the naval missions, because it is, the world is largely in this island area, and you're basically on a ship and traversing through these islands. So, with that, I think we can get going. A lot of stuff happened. I know a lot of stuff happened in Assassin's Creed 3, but don't want to bring that stuff up just yet until this game sort of refers back to it, until there's an actual point to refer to. So I am starting a new save file. I'll admit that I actually did play the first few scenes of the game before this, because I needed to test the game how it ran on my PC. So I need to play enough of it to determine what settings I should set the game at. And with that, there are actually a lot of things I can talk about, including the technical things about the game, as well as Assassin's Creed as a series. But let's look at how the game starts. Talk about that first, and then when there's a moment to talk, I will bring other stuff up. So Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, very first scene, you see we're on a boat, and you can see that it puts the naval stuff front and center. Like, this is saying right away, this is going to be a focus. So we saw an assassin there. Coming from other games, if you came from other games, you know what assassins in general look like, so we aren't necessarily an assassin, but looks like we're fighting an assassin. Alright, so ship combat is more or less a tutorial, starting us off here. I notice that the ship combat is a little different than it was in Assassin's Creed 3. It is largely like there's more of an aiming component with it. Whereas with Assassin's Creed 3, your cannons would fire like an entire field on the screen rather than a specific kind of cone or area, an arc. Now, this is more of an arc. So I have to do a little bit more focusing, trying to aim my cannons. Yeah, the naval stuff in Assassin's Creed 3, definitely one of my most favorite parts of the game. Really cool thing that they added in that entry in the series. You know, being a that game was the 5th, and this one's being the 7th. They bring in a lot of baggage along with the series. Like, it does not exist in a vacuum. These games, they have to acknowledge the fact that they're, previous Assassin's Creed games came before them, and there are a lot of expectations of those games coming in. So both Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 4 have to bring in a lot of similar stuff, what you expect from an Assassin's Creed game, those games before, into their games. But I'm glad that Assassin's Creed 3 brings in something new and fresh, like the naval missions, and then 4 chooses to focus in much more on that.
Edward, privateering, is it dangerous?
Wouldn't pay so nice if it weren't.
Why not sail with the King's Navy? Earn a proper wage, sail under gentlemen.
Sod the Navy's gentlemen. For every shilling I'd earn, the captain gets 600. That's no way to earn a fortune.
We don't need a fortune.
It's not about need, Caroline. I want food that don't make me sick. I want walls that hold back the wind. I want a decent life.
How long would you be gone with these privateers?
A year, I reckon. 2 at the most.
All right. No more than 2. Promise me.
So we learned there were some information there, like the date, for instance. It actually takes place before Assassin's Creed 3, and almost 100 years before Assassin's Creed 3. Assassin's Creed 3 took place during the American Revolution, so 1776, and this one takes place in the early 1700s. And not quite 100 years, but probably say 50 to over 50 years before, right? That's probably a better way to describe it. Well, these games, each entry in the Assassin's Creed series has started with the started in the Crusades, 12th century Crusades, and then has since progressed in time. So it's interesting to see a first game in the series that actually goes back to an earlier point in time.
Was it good for you as well? Havana. I must get to Havana.
Well, I'll just build us another ship, will I?
I can pay you. Isn't that the sound you pirates like best? 100 skills.
Keep talking.
Oh, don't you?
You don't have that gold on you now, do you?
Bloody fucking pirates!
I want you to 6 feet!
You want to see that the game is very different from the previous game I streamed,
Come on,
just Dark Souls, and the big difference we see is that this one has like a lot of cutscenes, a lot of story stuff. I'm not really sure how I should approach that stuff. Should I not say anything during that? Should I talk over them sometimes? So I'm seeing the game for the first time. I do also want to listen to the story stuff as well, so I probably end up listening along with you guys story, so I won't constantly be
100 leagues or more to Havana.
analyzing, because I also want to listen to the story whenever I can, whenever I have a chance to. I know I'm supposed to chase that guy, but I'm also trying to take in the environment around me, you know, get my bearings a bit. Already seeing, we're not in a sort of city environment that a lot of the previous games in the series focused on. Cities were in a more natural environment. Assassin's Creed 3 actually had a lot more natural environments than any previous game had, so I am fairly used to seeing these sort of nature segments and like parkouring on trees. That's another thing. That's another big detail, big key detail of Assassin's Creed I probably should have mentioned, is the parkour is a very it's a key element to how you traverse the world. You're able to climb on buildings. Characters are skilled enough to the point where they can easily traverse the side of buildings, trees, things like that. So you can climb around rather than just staying on the ground. You're encouraged to climb over buildings to get to where you need to go rather than, you know, go around them. Another key thing about Assassin's Creed 3, whenever you get to the top of a really high building, you can synchronize with the environment. Your character's basically observing it, trying to get in a lot of important things in it. So you see a lot more of these things, these synchronized moments. Climb to the top, and then that's the way that's the way to get details about your immediate area. So now in the mini-map in the corner, I'll be able to see stuff like treasure chests, like other synchronized areas. If I so choose, I can go explore that stuff, get them.
Gosh, Git. Where's he running to?
So I know there's a bit of urgency here. I'm supposed to be chasing this guy, but I also want to, you know, get the stuff in the environment that I just observed, like these treasure chests. I don't know how many I should get. I figure I can probably get some of these a bit later, I can always come back. Because it's an open world, you can expect to come back to an area. Very rarely will an open world game have an area that you can't return to. So I can just pick up some of these chests, and if anything is like too out of the way, I think I'll just leave it for later. I see a thing in the air there. I can also see it on my map. I'm not really sure what that is, but probably some sort of collectible. Fragment ×1. Open world games, and especially Assassin's Creed, they have their fair share of collectibles. Encourage you to explore the environment. Skinning. So yeah, so this game will have skinning. That's one thing that Assassin's Creed 3 introduces, like a hunting system. There are wildlife in the natural areas, forests. You can hunt animals and then skin them to gain resources. I know there are some treasure chests over there, but I think I'm gonna expect to be able to come back to here, and then I'll explore a little bit further. I want to actually continue on with the story, get to where I need to go.
We could work together on this.
So while I can explore, it like makes very little sense that that assassin who's trying to run away from me would just wait there until I arrive. So it's like my urge to explore the environment is also kind of interfering with the logic of the story a bit. It's not terrible, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to have waited there. Like I should be more. Like I feel like I should be more focused on chasing the guy. But I guess that is my choice. I can play the game however I want. And considering how I can probably come back here, then I don't need to focus on the chests too much. Any other collectibles? Another sync point. So key detail, one major thing that I'm picking up from the game is that this is more of a fresh, blank slate for the series than any of the previous games have been. Like, every game up to Assassin's Creed 3 has been, while they have been exploring different characters in the historical segments, they've also been following a more modern character, the single character of Desmond Miles, who is essentially the modern ancestor of all the characters in the game. And the way the games kind of contextualize their more historical areas is that Desmond is delving back into his genetic memories, into the memories of his previous ancestors, of his older ancestors. Getting some combat here. Just it's a very easy segment. He didn't really put up a fight, which is strange for an assassin. He must be like a low level recruit. It was that easy to take down. Yeah. So as I was saying, Desmond was one of the main characters of the series, basically the main character of the overarching series until this game.
I accept your most generous offer and await your arrival with eagerness. If you truly possess the information we desire, we have the means to reward you handsomely. Though I would not know your face by sight, I believe I can recognize the costume made infamous by your secret order. Therefore, come to Havana in haste, and trust that you shall be welcomed in the club. Su más humilde servidor, el gobernador Laureano Torres y Ayala.
Yeah, so we're seeing how this character works. He's a pirate and he's trying to make a living, trying to earn gold, and He thinks, I guess he thinks he found a way to perhaps earn something. Maybe he's on some sort of mission. I'm not really sure exactly what he's doing here. I'm thinking we'll probably find that out later. So anyways, as I was saying, with Desmond, he was the main overarching character, connecting all of the characters in the previous games. However, something happened in the previous games that kind of ended his story, his story arc. And so with this one, we're starting with something new, some new context as to how we are exploring the worlds of historical times, specific historical periods, and specific characters in those periods. So I'm not really sure how this game contextualizes that, but I would say this one is probably the best game for any newcomer to Assassin's Creed, someone who has never played Assassin's Creed, to enter into, because you really don't need, because of how Desmond's story arc ended with 3, really don't need to know all that stuff right away in order to understand what is going on. This is essentially the start of potentially an entirely new story arc.
Sorry, Kingston? No, our destination is Havana. Merchants.
Quiet, you bleeding pirate! You'll hang for the mess you made out there.
Sir, I had nothing to do with this attack. My crew and I have merely anchored to water and resupply.
Hold it!
Alright, so we're getting enough information here to determine that this is probably going to be more of a stealth tutorial. I can learn how to hide and then perhaps kill these guards. Given the objective to free a merchant. There are a bunch of guards around and they probably won't be... Okay, the game is just giving me information right now. I can use these stalking zones to hide and use, for a stealthy approach. I can quickly dispatch enemies that way. Otherwise, I would have to engage in combat with them, which might take a little longer. Then again, while stealth is a different skill entirely, I have to actually make sure I'm not seen and make my way through the environment so I can take out these guys really quickly. From a technical standpoint, the way he traverses through these bushes is a lot better than what it was in previous games. I think Assassin's Creed 3 was the one. This is something else that Assassin's Creed 3 introduced, as the character can hide in these bushes and then walk around in them as well. Not just... I think in previous games in the series they would have hiding points like this, but you had to... They were just like these stationary things, you couldn't move around in them. And position yourself for a good kill. So I'm observing this guy's movement pattern, and I am going to... I think he comes over here, so I'm going to wait here and dispatch him this way. But from a technical perspective, these hiding points look a lot better, a lot more natural. Whereas in Assassin's Creed 3, the bushes there were kind of... Oh, he doesn't come to the edge. I have to actually go over there, I think. These bushes were a little more sparse, so you could see your character a lot more, and it kind of broke the immersion, because you would think that guards around you would be able to see the character because you can plainly see him through the bushes. Here, he's much more well hidden. And just the plants in general look much better. Better detailed, rather than an assortment of 2D sprites. So this game already looks a lot better than Assassin's Creed 3 did. I think this one, these guys I can't really stealth. So one thing I could have done, I could have charged these guys, and I could have done a quick assassination that way, but ended up missing it this time. For this game we're seeing, actually we're gonna get to a story bit right now, so I'll wait till after he's done.
By God's grace, sir, you saved me. A profusion of thanks. Is that yours? It is my vessel, yes. But here lies its poor captain, and I have no art for sailing.
I can pilot her myself, no mind.
You don't mean to abscond with my ship, do you?
I'm Duncan. What's your name, friend?
Stede Bonnet.
Well, Mr. Bonnet, let this stay twixt us. But I'm on a secret errand for His Majesty the King, God save him, and I must get to Havana with speed.
Ah, that is a relief, sir. Havana is also my destination. Our ways lie together.
Natural allies, then.
Ah, you put me at ease, sir. To think I took you for a pirate when you first appeared.
Did you?
Yes. You have uncommon way of handling yourself. Quick and easy, if I may say. Gave me quite a fright. But all things considered, I think it's turned out to be a rather fortuitous day, hasn't it?
Alright, so as I said before, this game is like an action.
Boat, I'm afraid we'll have to swim to my ship.
Hardly the worst thing to happen.
An action exploration game with, say action adventure. The genres in video games are so weird, but say it's like an action adventure game with some stealth elements. As you say, that there's, it's not a total stealth game. There's opportunities for stealth almost everywhere, so it gives you a lot of options of how you approach combat and exploration of the environment, traversal of the environment. Unlike like Dark Souls, my previous game, Dark Souls is much slower paced combat, more methodical. You're supposed to take your time, take advantage of cues and enemy movement. Here we're just like super fast, fluid combat. And I'm not necessarily saying that's better or worse, it's just, you know, different. It's a different type of game. Very clearly different type of game. This one, much more AAA. By AAA I mean like big budget. And with that they have to make sure a lot of different people can actually play the game, play it well. Like, unlike Dark Souls, this game gives you objectives on the screen to make sure you know where to go at all times. It always gives you a place to go. You're never lost. Or at least it tries its hardest to make sure that you don't get lost. So I could explore that environment a little bit more before I leave, but I figure I'm going to be able to come back here at some point in time, and then I'll collect more stuff. Leave them there. There's no great need for me to do that now. I just want to get, you know, through the opening bits to when the game gives me more freedom to move around the world. Essentially, like, if you played a lot of games, then you know that they usually start off with a tutorial and a more linear path. Even an open world game will give you a more linear path to go on before it opens the area, the world of the game up to you to gives you more freedom. But for now, I just want to get through the tutorial, and then perhaps later on I will do more exploration. Yeah, I can see on that map there are a ton of chests that I'm leaving behind.
She'll do fine. There's a strong wind now. Let's strike to full, shall we?
Of course, more naval stuff. This is going to be... Well, I figure it's going to be a major way of traversing the overall world of the game. Sailing from an island to island.
That's a top way of seeing it, mate.
Well, I can already tell that I'm really going to like the sailing. As I said before, the sailing of the naval missions in Assassin's Creed 3 were my favorite parts of the game, and those were just more instance missions. You couldn't just hop on your boat and travel anywhere you wanted. Basically just selected a naval mission on a map in that game,
But most pirates storm
and then you would
between Cuba and
be automatically on a boat, and then be given a specific objective to do, and then once you complete that objective, you end the mission and return back to the main overworld.
Being waylaid by pirates, truth be told. My ship is small, and I have nothing of immense value. Sugarcane, seals, molasses, rum, that sort of thing.
There's not a pirate living who turned his back.
I like these little flamingos here. It's a cool little detail.
That's true.
Flying.
Lights up! Let's get moving!
I can already tell the sailing in this game is a lot more fluid. Like the controls are much more responsive than they were Assassin's Creed 3. I figure that's because, you know, they knew that you were going to be sailing a lot more in this game, so they made sure that sailing was perfect, or as close to perfect as possible. Yeah, this feels much better than that game, and it was already really good, really great addition to Assassin's Creed as a game, you know, as an action adventure game. That was one of the most refreshing things that Assassin's Creed 3 added to what you can expect from the series. So it probably seems weird that I'm talking about Assassin's Creed 3 and previous Assassin's Creed games. I probably should be talking more about, you know, the game we're seeing right now, but you have to take into context that this is Assassin's Creed 4. It is carrying with it a lot of the baggage and expectations of the previous games, so I'm always going to be thinking about those games
2
too.
years before the mast as a privateer.
Dash my buttons. Your life seems a grand one, if I may say. So full of adventure. How marvelous.
I've seen my share of strangeness,
Especially with an Assassin's Creed 4, the 7th game in the series, the 6th Assassin's Creed game I've played, because I actually haven't played Liberation yet. You know, it's unavoidable
Fantastic work.
that it's going to be carrying that baggage of the previous games. That I'm going to be expecting something from the game. So of course I have to talk about the previous games. I can't just take it in a vacuum. There are some story details and stuff like that I don't need to talk about until the game that really brings it up. So
There you go. Welcome back.
it all depends on, you know, what I'm seeing right now. I'll refer back to previous games.
Oh, your numbers look good. Now let's make sure we can break your brain, all right? I need you to move your head and look at these lights just here. Look up. That's it. Down. So far, so good. Let's get you up. So, welcome to the Sample 17 project. Before you get started, you're gonna need this. There you go. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Hello, bonjour. C'est bon? It works?
Alright, so I'm thinking that
Alright, let's
this
take
is
a
how the
look.
modern
Well,
stuff
you've done some memory
is going to
research
work in this
before,
game.
but not to this extent, which is surprising. You're very good. The data streams are very stable. Impressive, right? This building is barely 6 months old, but Abstergo Entertainment has been a studio for a few years, since 2010.
See, as Desmond can no longer be the anchor point for the modern.
You saw Liberation? That was our first title powered by Animus Tech. That was just the tip of the iceberg. Soon, we'll be unveiling commercial Animus servers for the whole world to enjoy. They'll offer
You know,
passive
for the modern day
of course. Edited versions
way
of
we
real
explore
history,
the
but only
historical stuff
And we think
So
we
this
found
is like the
perfect subject
the
for our
new
first full-length
way
virtual feature.
that we're going to be doing that, I guess.
So that's your gig.
Interesting to see it's in first person as well. We don't even see the character. We don't know who we are.
Well, thank you, Nancy. Bonne journée.
Know who that is? That's actually a character from the previous games.
Magnifique. Merci.
That is Rebecca, I think.
This is for
Nice
you.
little cameo.
Primary
People who
tool
played the
of
games
our
before.
trade, your communicator. Power it up and give it a look. It's pretty slick.
People who've played the game before will recognize her and be like, oh, okay, so there is some connection to what happened before.
Your communicator is your key to getting around.
Also gives us a little bit of context as far as time, how much time has passed. Not that much time has passed since Assassin's Creed 3 as far as the modern day stuff. The historical stuff is taking place before Assassin's Creed 3. Okay, look at that. That's an octopus. That's some cool details. Now it looks like we're some sort of Abstergo worker. I don't think we know the name of our character yet.
See that flashing
We're some
wireless
sort of
signal?
researcher for
We can drift
Abstergo.
up to the elevator. I'll let you do the honors. We're headed up to the Sample 17 studio, 2nd floor.
So Abstergo is actually the company that invented the Animus technology that allows people to delve into their genetic memory and their ancestors. So makes sense that we would be in an Abstergo company building for exploring new characters. I'm sure they have an entire legion of workers, researchers who are delving into the past using Animus technology, and I think this is just one example, and we are now looking into one researcher who's looking into
I'll introduce you. Bonjour.
Salut, Mélanie. Ça va bien?
our character Kenway in this game.
Have you met our new hire? Just started today.
I haven't. Bonjour. What project?
Sample 17, the Kenway line.
Hayden, Connor...
Edward, the pirate.
Ah, Arya!
Kinda funny.
Exciting. Welcome aboard. Mélanie, can we talk in your office for a minute?
Just let me get this one settled and I'll see you in 5 minutes.
C'est bon. Nice to meet you.
So, this is the Sample 17 floor. We're diving into the memories of one very generous donor, Desmond Miles. We're pulling all the best stuff from his DNA. And hopefully one day, we can forge some fantastic experiences from what we find in there. This pair of legs is
Okay, that was a very important bit of information.
Something for you.
Talk about that when
Fixing.
we're done this little scene here.
Calibrating, right. So here we are, your very own Animus workstation. This is all yours, so sit back, relax, and find us some good footage. If you need any hints or tips, the Animus is loaded with tutorial programs, so you'll have no problems. And I'll check in on you later. Happy pirating.
Yeah, as she said, they have Desmond's blood, so they're able to delve into his genetic memory. And I guess they figured out a way for other people to experience that. You don't need to delve into your own genetic memory. So the character we're playing now isn't necessarily a descendant of any well-known assassins. We are delving into Desmond's ancestors. So we're going to give it a moment to either actually go right back into the world of Edward Kenway, or we can maybe explore this little office space that we were given. I think I want to do that. It gives me an opportunity to slow down and talk about some interesting things about this. So in the Assassin's Creed games, mostly the modern stuff, there's always been a degree of self-awareness to the games. There's always been like some fourth wall breaking stuff, or stuff that comes really close to it. In this game we're in an Abstergo, but Abstergo is like they made it a facsimile of the developers of the game. So developers of the game at Ubisoft is also the publisher of the game. There are many different development teams at Ubisoft that made, or that go into making every Assassin's Creed game. So, and also, Ubisoft, they are mostly French, either in France or in Canada, French developers. So the fact that they, speaking French here, it's kind of a nod to themselves. They're kind of parodying themselves in a way, kind of giving a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, self-reflexive stuff. So now they're like developing stories around the assassins, and I'm assuming the Templars as well, of the past, much like a game developer would make Assassin's Creed 4. So I always appreciate when games do this. They introduce a bit of self-reflexivity, reflexivity. A tough word to say. Anyway, it's a cool environment, a lot of details. I'm guessing it's probably a little more slick than, say, a development studio, or maybe the development studios at Ubisoft do look like this as well. I don't know. Who knows? There are a lot of little nice touches that I'm observing right now, like there are people delving into other assassins. Can see, I wonder what this assassin line is, or if they're even assassins. They could be Templars. One major detail of the Assassin's Creed games is that they have overseen the seemingly everlasting feud between the Templars and the Assassins. There are two rival philosophies and groups of people that have butted heads at various points in time. So all the games have centered around the Assassins, and they have always been fighting the Templars. Templars have been our main enemies in the games, and now we're in the shoes of an Abstergo worker, and Abstergo is controlled by the Templars. So as part of their research and their ongoing goals, they're also, getting as much information about their past and the Assassin's past, just as Desmond, who was a descendant of the Assassins, was able to go back to his past and learn more about the Assassins and that stuff. So yeah, this guy I'm assuming that as we achieve certain goals in the game, we will unlock trophies that will come here. So this guy is doing a similar thing that we're going to be doing, and he's unlocked his own trophies to put in his office. So I'm not sure how much more I should explore here. I'm not exactly sure how much I can do in this environment yet. Maybe the only thing that I can do right now is, besides exploring, is delve back into the Animus. But I'm assuming that we'll be able to jump out of the Animus and explore this again, and perhaps achieve certain objectives and progress the modern character. I don't even know his name. His storyline there, just like we did in previous games. I think it started in Assassin's Creed 2. With Assassin's Creed 1, at specific parts of the story, we would be taken out of the Animus, and the modern day storyline would progress, starting with, I think, actually Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, the third game. We could, at will, jump out of the Animus and explore the modern day environment and progress Desmond's story there. So I'm assuming something similar is going to happen here. QR codes. I wonder if I take out my phone right now, I'd scan that QR code and be taken to something. Be pretty interesting to do. So I'm not really seeing anything I can do necessarily in the modern day world just yet, but I'm assuming that at some point we'll figure out how to get all these areas here. Now I'm not sure. I'm seeing a lot of screen tearing, and that's because I have the vertical sync off for performance reasons. I'm not really sure if that's showing up on the stream. It's difficult to tell. I'll have to look at that after the stream is over. Look at the archive of the video. It's my first episode of streaming this game, so there's going to be, some kinks that I'm going to work out. Stuff like volume levels, I'm not really sure I got that right away, and I'll have to look back at the archive, and then I'll fix that stuff. I'll adjust that stuff as I play the game more. But so far, the game hasn't crashed, which is a great thing. The stream hasn't crashed. It's still going. So things look good as far as being able to stream this game. But I also have to say that I haven't yet seen the most demanding environments, which are the cityscapes when you're traversing rooftops and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff happening on the screen all at once during those times. So I'm most concerned about the game or the stream crashing during a city area. So when we get to that, we'll see how it goes. Alright, looks like, yeah, I don't see really anything I can do here. I can also, pretty sure I can look into this tablet that they gave me, my files. Employee passport. Passport to success at Abstergo Entertainment. Yeah, it's Abstergo Entertainment, just like Ubisoft Entertainment. It's kind of a game version of themselves, I guess, contextualized in their world. I'm not really sure what the objective of Abstergo, why the Templars would establish an Abstergo Entertainment, if it's like some sort of propaganda thing, making, releasing products to the people to progress their ideals on them. We're seeing gives like an entire booklet here to read. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of information. Because we see the entire history of starting the founding of Abstergo Industries, a timeline up to Entertainment Division. Oh man, that's a lot to read. I'm not sure. I think maybe after I finish the stream, I will come back and read this stuff. But normally while playing the game, when I get presented with like a big text thing, I will read it. I won't just ignore it. I do want to learn as much about the world as I can. But I think that would just take too much time with just me looking at the screen here. But I'll scroll through it and skim it for now, and then maybe I'll be able to bring that knowledge into the next time I stream. So I'll have to make a note about how to, make a note to read this stuff on my own time. Man, that's a lot of information. This is like an entire employee handbook that they give you. Man, oh man, this is a huge booklet. And this is like, I guess this is the only document that we have right now. Assuming that more documents will appear in this menu as we get them. Right now there is nothing else to explore. We get a mini-map here, the overall area, just like this is one thing that we haven't really seen in previous Assassin's Creed games, because those are third-person games, and this is like a first-person. One of the first times that we've seen or experienced a first-person portion of the game. So now it actually gives you a HUD in the world, a heads-up display that is contextualized with the environment. So I always love it when games contextualize a HUD, like we're seeing it on this guy's tablet, and it functions the same way as the HUD in the third-person segments of the game work. So again, I don't think there's anything to do here. We explored a bit. I really like this environment. This is a really cool idea, how to bring the modern day stuff, something new. I'm assuming we're going to learn more about whoever we are. I'm not really sure, and what this guy's goal is. Abstergo. Is that like a VR headset? Animus VR headset? They're like using Oculus Rift or something. Modified Oculus Rift and Animus technology in one to explore your ancestors, or someone else's ancestors in this case. Alright, so I'm going to go back into the world. done exploring the modern day stuff.
Welcome to Animus Omega, Abstergo Entertainment's proprietary ancestral memory research tool. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about how to operate your Animus console, please contact your project supervisor, Melanie LeMay. You have been registered as part of the Sample 17 project. Your primary research target is Edward James Kenway, born March 10, 1693, Swansea, Wales. Calibrations complete. All signs normal. All systems optimal. Extra neurotransmitters activated.
So this guy is actually another Kenway, like the characters we saw in Assassin's Creed 3. He is, I guess, I'm not exactly sure how his relation is to Connor. I think he's like his uncle or something, his great uncle. I'm sure the game will tell me that relation at some point. I will get some sort of document detailing that stuff. Interesting, we're seeing this is not in-game graphics right now. This is pretty clearly a video, and now this is in-game graphics here.
See someone you know? No, just putting on a friendly face. I shouldn't want to be mistaken for a pirate again.
Right. Flash rogue like yourself must be cautious.
Mad to think Spain and England were at war 2 years ago, isn't it? Here I am, bartering with Spaniards like they were my cousins. Nothing wrong, Duncan?
No, it's nothing. Sand in my hampers. So where's the best squad in town? I'm dying for a quick kip. Or a siesta, should I say.
I'm just headed to a public house now to meet some merchants. I could show you the way.
Well, lead on.
I hope you'll tarry a bit while I conduct my meeting. It'd be a great relief to have your stature nearby. Misunderstanding.
I can hang about. I might have a drink.
Splendid. Drink.
But they don't take kindly to pirates here, do they? Wonder how many stolen reals bought these men this purge.
So it's going to be difficult to
No, they charge money for that.
talk about the game while also trying to listen to all this story stuff, because there's going to be a lot more story stuff in this game than there was in Dark Souls. Dark Souls was actually a much better game for just constantly analyzing the world. But here, there's going to be a lot of dialogue and exposition, walk and talks as we're seeing here.
Maybe I'll buy a sword too. We'll both jump rank.
Oh, we'll be quite the pair, you and I. Twin devils.
Lend us a
So
few
this game is going to be a little bit more difficult to find opportunities to actually analyze the game. Alright, we got introduced to the vendors. We can buy a lot of stuff from them, but right now we're just going to buy these swords, because that's what the game wants us to do. It seems like the game is more directed, like really directed, holding your hand every step of the way. But I think that's just because of the tutorial. The previous Assassin's Creed games aren't this restrictive on you. It does eventually open up and give you more freedom. For now, there are very specific objectives that we have to do.
How do you fare?
I had only enough for a small knife, sadly. Still, it'll do in a pinch. Oh, puffer duff. I have led us astray, Duncan.
Oh, no matter. I'll get us a better view. What are we looking for?
A tavern, a sort of courtyard interior.
Of course, the first thing you want to do if you're in an unfamiliar environment is get your bearings, try to find out where you are, look for where you need to go. Of course, the main way to do that, as I said before, is to climb buildings, find synchronized points, and observe your environment that way. So far the game seems to be holding up pretty darn well, about as well as I could expect during my test when I was not streaming the game. And it seems like streaming isn't adding a whole bunch of added strain to the system, which is good news for me. That means I should be able to stream the game. If it can handle rendering all of this and streaming, then it should be fine.
Stop or I'll break your knees when I catch you. I'm close at heel, shitbird.
Right now, I'm trying to catch this guy. Like, my first instinct is to get an advantage by like traversing the environment, like I'm doing here. But I'm not sure if that's like the best way to do it. He's like, you don't always want to.
Don't make me chase you into the harbor.
Climb buildings and stuff. Sometimes the best way to do it is to just run at him. Okay, now he's taking us to the rooftops. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Where'd he go? Alright, got him from the top.
You robbed the wrong man, mate. A fellow with dangerous friends.
Yeah, so while I was testing the game, I guess this is a good time to talk about the sort of technical elements of games, and particularly like PC gaming. So I picked these settings because I was trying to like make it under. I was trying to like give my computer a bit of leeway, right? So a little bit of slack, because I figure streaming might add a bit of strain on the rendering, so I went a little bit under what my system can actually handle. So I think I could probably turn on some of this stuff, like environment quality I put on normal, maybe go one higher. That's one of the things I like about PC gaming is messing with, well, as long as games give you a lot of these options like you're seeing here, a lot of ways to tinker your game and pick the exact type of performance that you want. Sometimes you want, more effects, more features, but then the game will run slower. But if you want a more performance-oriented experience, one that gives you, fast rendering, more frames per second, then you can deliberately back off on certain details at the expense of graphics quality. So one of the first things I do with the game is I will tinker with menus like this if they offer them. Some games give you very sparse things, like most of the previous Assassin's Creed games did not give you this many options. I think this is mostly good. I've played a lot of PC games. Some of the most demanding stuff, in my experience, will be anti-aliasing. That's a big one, and ambient occlusion is a big one. And if the game offers us some sort of physics or physics solution, that one's like super demanding. So I'm not going to use the highest level of ambient occlusion. Like from what I saw, the difference between SSAO, which is screen space ambient occlusion, and HBAO plus is very small. HBAO plus is definitely more accurate, to be sure, and doesn't exhibit a lot of the flaws of SSAO. But in a fast-paced game like this, in a very bright game, the shadows created by ambient occlusion aren't that noticeable. They are. So as long as you have any level of ambient occlusion, you are probably okay. And if your computer can handle HBAO plus, then go ahead. You can knock yourself out. Anti-aliasing quality, I'll usually go for a much higher one, but I'll also trying to not go too high. TXAA I know is a mixture of a more traditional sampling method, trying to get rid of aliasing with a post-process, combining with a post-process method. It's I don't want to get too technical about it, but for the purposes of my stream and my hardware, I also look for environment quality. Environment quality is related directly to draw distance, how far away or how near certain items in the game will become more detailed, will be replaced with more detailed versions of those items. So there are, low detailed items in the distance, and then as you approach them, they'll get more and more detailed. So environment quality will largely govern that. It also governs how many detailed objects you'll see on screen at one time. So with my system, I actually have a weaker CPU than most people will have. I actually have a very old, I still have a dual core from 2008, so environment quality is usually a big concern for me, especially in open world games. The more objects you have on screen, the greater performance impact you will have on your CPU, rather than it's not really a graphics oriented thing. Like the graphics of course is rendering the objects themselves, but the CPU handles CPU has to keep track of how many objects are on the screen. So the more objects you see on the screen at once, the greater demand on the CPU. So if I had a more modern quad core, I'd just go very high, no problem. Like any quad core or better, from the last probably 3 years, any core like i5 or Core i7 or AMD quad core should be able to handle very high, no problem. But because I have a dual core system, I'm looking at either normal or high. Performance seems to be okay. So I'm going to stick with high, but I don't think I can do very high. Very high, I've already tested. Delves into like the 20 frames per second, and anything below 30 frames is like is bad news. So PhysX, while I would like to do PhysX, PhysX is like a really demanding thing, and in this game, PhysX is largely centered around, or is centered around smoke effects. So anytime you see smoke, the PhysX will handle how it sort of moves around objects realistically. If you turn it off, the smoke won't interact with objects like your character. Or if you turn it on to high, PhysX will make the smoke, like you make your character able to dissipate the smoke and move the smoke realistically. But unfortunately, like, that is very demanding on the hardware, especially if you only have one graphics card like me. If you have multiple graphics cards in a SLI format, SLI, which is what NVIDIA calls it, then you'll be able to handle PhysX much better. But if I were to do PhysX and I was not streaming the game, I'd probably go with low or normal on my card. I have a GTX 770. Now while I enjoy everything else, I can put to high. Motion blur to me is not really a performance thing. Motion blur is a more of an aesthetic preference. Motion blur usually makes me sick, and to me it just looks very ugly. I have yet to see a game use motion blur in a very pleasing way, an aesthetically pleasing way. So I usually turn it off whenever I can. Turn it off, I will turn it off. So yeah, this has nothing to do with performance, me turning it off. That is just my preference as far as motion blur. And if anything, motion blur already happens in games. You don't need an extra effect to simulate motion blur. Anything that's moving fast on the screen will appear blurry to me. I mean, like if I'm focusing on Kenway, my character here, and I'm moving the camera around, the stuff on the sides will blur naturally just because it's moving pretty fast. Like it appears blurry to me. So I don't really understand why games have an added effect for motion blur. Alright, so one of the things about PC gaming is it's kind of a trade-off dealing with these technical settings in a game. I really enjoy that, which is why I'm a hardcore PC gamer, and whenever I can get a game on PC over consoles, I will do it, just because I like tinkering with these graphics options here as much as possible, trying to get the quality I want versus the frames per second. My goal is to get to, at bare minimum, 30 frames per second looks good, and the best is your monitor's refresh rate, which is usually 60 frames per second, or if you have an even higher, a monitor that can do an even higher refresh rate, like 120 frames per second, then you might want to try and reach there too. So my purposes, I want to reach 60, but realistically with my setup, my graphics card is really good, but my CPU is older and will have a hard time dealing with large open world games like this. So I should realistically expect to back off on stuff like environment quality to get good frames per second. Realistically expect 30 frames per second, which is acceptable, an acceptable level of quality.
Of course I am. That filter's no fuss. Oh, yeah.
Now, for some people, doing the graphics stuff, dealing with graphics settings is really fun. Like me, I like doing that. But as I said, there's a trade-off. It can be an obstacle for some people. They just don't want to deal with that, and either because it's time-consuming. I'll hold off until they're done here.
Lucky King George, having a piss pot like you flying his flag. Oi! Skulk! I've seen your face before. You's mates with them pirates down in Nassau. Shut your fucking gob or I'll fill it with shot, you hear me? Edward, is it? Yeah, I warned him.
Combat, nice. Beat up the attackers, my objective. Until now I've had a weapon. Now this is gonna focus more on like hand-to-hand, no weapon attacks. I don't know why these guys aren't attacking me. Oh, I guess we're just learning about combos and countering as well. Yeah, so this is another tutorial teaching you very specific things about combat, countering, disarming, wounding, things like that. Also combos, if you're able to do a stream of attack, you can do combos as well.
You're not leaving me. I'll catch you up.
Alright, smoke bomb. So, alright, so I gotta select the smoke bomb, press Y to use it, and then I can escape. Right, there it is. Gotta find a place to hide, but I also want to make sure they're not looking at me. Like, I have to find a place to hide, but also they can't see me finding that hiding place. Alright, so I'll continue my discussion about graphic settings. That's something I personally enjoy, but for some people it is an obstacle because, you know, it can be time consuming, and, you know, a lot of times people just don't want to deal with that. Maybe they don't have the technical know-how. Alright, I didn't need to hide in there, I just actually escaped the view of the guards. Tackle the pickpocket, okay. So actually there was an optional objective there that I missed. And if I want to go for 100% synchronization, I can try it again. So I think normally that, like, the Animus interface here, you're going through your memories on an individual basis, and every single mission in the game is like a memory, or is equated to a memory. And if you want to achieve 100% synchronization with the character's memory, the memory that actually happened, then you can replay that mission and then do the optional objectives. So I think I want to replay the mission if I can. I'm not sure if it's gonna let me. I can rate the memory. Like, okay, dislike. It was more of a tutorial, so yeah, this is kind of a new thing. Seems like every mission that you can do in the game, you can then rate that mission after it's done. And I guess this is like giving feedback. Your researcher giving feedback to Abstergo Entertainment, but I'm sure Ubisoft, the actual developers of the game, are looking at these things and learning that feedback. So, I'm gonna say this mission was okay. Wasn't totally spectacular. But right now I'm looking for how to replay the memory if I can. Okay, so I can go to that memory, and I can then replay it. So this is what I was looking for, because it is a memory part of the character. You can replay those missions anytime you want. If you want to achieve 100% synchronization, which I kind of do, I'm gonna go ahead and skip this, because we already saw it. So we already saw the story stuff here. There's be more opportunity to talk about the game. So again, I'm still trying to talk about the graphic settings that I went with the game here. And well, even for me, I can feel the trade-off. Like, whenever I play a PC game, I automatically try to fiddle with the graphic settings to get the best performance to quality ratio that I like. Sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes my PC can just handle the game and I can just max everything out, no problem. Sometimes it's not that easy. If I max everything out, the game runs like crap, and it gets all choppy and stuttery and unplayable. Like, ideally, I want it to be at least as smooth as this, if not smoother.
This rusty razor's nothing to admire.
Even so, I appear a mere kitten.
So
Upon you. Perhaps a small dagger would suit me. Let's see what he said.
that kind of interrupts any new game experience that I have. Like, I can't just delve into the game and simply experience that game outright. I have to, as it is a PC game, I do have to worry about performance up front. So it kind of interrupts and cuts into my game experience, right at the outset, which is not necessarily the best thing to experience. But as a PC gamer, over the years I've gotten used to that fact. And while it's great to just delve into a game and just let it take over you, let it enrapture you with its story and world, I feel like I can still do that. I can still let that happen. Alright, so I technically have already bought it, I think.
You'll do in a pinch. Oh, puffer duff. I have led us astray, Duncan.
Oh, no matter. I'll get us a better view. What are we looking for?
A tavern, sort of courtyard interior. My goodness, you're an agile chap.
Every finger's official.
Yeah, so
That's how you tell a true sailor.
the replaying mission stuff is probably not the best thing to experience on a stream or a YouTube video, however you're seeing this, but it realistically depicts how I would approach the game, like, because I want to achieve that 100% synchronization. Sometimes I'm going to miss those optional missions on the first shot, on the first try, and I'll have to do that mission again. Sometimes I can, catch that in time before the mission ends, and I can just restart restart from the last checkpoint and try to do that optional objective again. So I'll do my best to try and catch those, so I don't have to do the entire mission over. So gonna try and catch that pickpocket again.
I'll break your knees when I catch you. I'm close at heels, shitbird.
So with those graphics options, I figured that's one reason why some people just prefer consoles over PC games, because they don't want to have to worry about those graphics options up front. They want the game. They value the game's ability to just jump right into the game and then let it. All right, optional objectives: tackle the pickpocket. So I guess I didn't actually end up tackling that pickpocket. I thought I did, but I guess that didn't work out. Oh, you know what happened? Like, yeah, I technically didn't tackle him. I dropped down onto him. So, like, I guess the game did not count that as tackling the pickpocket. This game, I did actually manage to do that. Oh no! Whoops! I guess that guy fell off. Yeah, stuff like that can happen. Looks like I picked up something, a shanty of some sort. Yeah, there are a lot of collectibles to get at all times in open world. Now this time, yeah, I guess the guard that fell off accidentally sort of triggered an alert, and now I have to try and figure out how to escape these guards. Okay, I was trying to hide in the crowd there, but he saw me enter the crowd, so it didn't work quite as well as I hoped. So now I'm using the crowd again to try to hide from this guard that's chasing me. And then once the alert dies down, I can finally continue with my objective. So, but we are seeing is he still following me? I just want to continue with this mission. Alright. Talk about more of that stealth stuff later on, but I just want to I'm trying to finish my thought regarding the graphic settings. That's something I guess would deter people from picking up the PC version of the game. That is one advantage that I've grown to understand. For me, it's not that bad anymore.
lucky King George having a piss pot like you flying his flag. Oi!
And if anything, fiddling with those graphic settings is well worth the the immediate immersion that you would lose, or that it causes you to lose. Like, it's a trade-off I'm willing to make, because I like fiddling around and trying to get the best graphic settings that I can get with my hardware. In any case, like, my PC is definitely better than even like a PS4 or Xbox One, so like even with these settings, like I already know that like any console is going to be more or it's not going to have as much graphical fidelity. It's not going to have those settings all the way up compared to what I have them to. So this fighting system allows me to really quickly dispatch enemies. Like, after I successfully take one guy down, knock him out, or kill him, I can then seamlessly knock out surrounding enemies in succession. Like, it's a chain mechanic that they introduced in, I think, Assassin's Creed 2, all the way back there. Perhaps it was Brotherhood. It's tough to remember because I played it so many years ago, which game exactly introduced what feature. But it's something that made the combat much better compared to Assassin's Creed 1, which had a similar combat system, but it was much more clunky, and you were dealing with like one enemy at a time, and you couldn't really deal with multiple enemies very effectively. Alright, let's try and hide once again. So then we'll try and take a different path. Alright, I'll use the smoke bombs once more. Now this time I'll try and go on the rooftops here, so... Normally the parkour is like part of an assassin's training. So I'm wondering how this guy, Kenway, knows how to properly do all this parkour stuff, like what led him to do that. Alright, so I got 100% sync. That's great. Tackle the pickpocket and use smoke bombs to escape. That's all I needed to do. And I completed the memory back to where it was before. Can continue on. So we're in Havana. We're given a lot of collectibles, an overview of the area. Anytime I can go to the map here, and so far I've observed this area of the city here, and these are the items that I was able to gather from that synchronized point. And as I get more synchronized points, I'll be able to gather even more. Details about the environment. So this is essentially how you can get contacts and see what you can collect, things to do. Like I'm already seeing icons like this is a general store. If I need to buy stuff, that's where that is. Assassin contract, I can do that. It's a sort of side mission that I can do. Interesting. Gain money, medium. So it even shows you like how worthwhile each mission is. It gives you a range or a rating of the rewards you can get from that mission, so you can kind of prioritize the mission. That's a nice little touch that I haven't seen in previous Assassin's Creed games. So these shanties, I guess these are like the a new type of collectible, or this game's version of like previous Assassin's Creed games have had things like feathers to collect, documents from certain different people. Assassin's Creed 3 had almanacs to collect, almanac pages to collect, and I guess this game it's shanties, which makes sense because it's a pirate themed game. You're going to be collecting shanties. kind of interesting. So this is like seeing a very kind of traditional environment here, full of yeah, Havana seems to be. Oh, this is like it's a hiding spot. Interesting. If I look out for these, like if I look out for these golden doors, it's a nice hiding spot I can use to get away from guards, as long as they don't see me entering the environment, of course, or entering those doors. So immediately I'm seeing that the Havana, at least, the cityscape environments, look like what I've seen from most of the Assassin's Creed games, and the only game that really departed from that was Assassin's Creed 3. So these buildings are like really densely packed and all connected together, very few gaps in between them, and any gaps will usually have like these wires connecting so you can cross them really quickly. These environments, these types of cityscapes that I've seen in previous games, like we've seen various European and Middle Eastern environments in previous Assassin's games. A lot of those buildings are, because those are old, well-established cities. They are, the buildings will be naturally densely packed together, which allows easy traversal of the environment. Now, in Assassin's Creed 3, those were, during the American Revolution, those cities like Boston, New York, are much newer cities compared to what we saw in Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed 1, and because of their newness, they have a lot fewer buildings, a lot, the alleyways and roads in between the buildings are much wider, and that actually made traversing the environments much more difficult. So we're seeing a sort of dynamic objective here to free the pirates. So I'm gonna fight these guys in hopes I can free these pirates. I'm not sure what freeing the pirates actually means, what kind of reward that'll give me. Alright, any more guards? Alright, looks like you just get a monetary reward. I think I freed the pirates, so I don't actually have to fight these guys anymore. Yeah, I had a little prompt that said, 200 gold pieces or whatever currency that was. So I'm just gonna escape for now. I don't need to actually deal with these guards. Alright, so I can, looking on the map, see my next objective as far as the main story be right here. That's the main mission, but also I can take time to explore the area, gather more details. So I think I'm gonna look for more sync points like the one I'm near right now. Maybe collect a few things, and again gain my bearings. So let's climb this building if I can. Sync point is right around here. Let's look at most of the towers in the game will naturally be sync points. Tall towers are great vantage points to just see your immediate area. Usually if you don't know where a sync point is, you can either check your map or just look around for a tower. It's most likely going to be a sync point. So these like climbing towers for sync points is like a staple of Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed ever since Assassin's Creed 1. It's just a thing you do. It is like a well-established element of the series. You might even call it a trope at this point, just because it's like so It's been so thoroughly done, and I'm not sure if it's even necessary anymore. It's like you could make the claim that the Assassin's Creed games have become so dependent on this as far as just learning about your environment. I'm not really sure what's that gained me there, if that opened up any more. Icons on my map. Another thing I can do is, from here I can go into the Eagle Vision mode, which is an innate ability of the assassins that allow them to gather information by looking at highlighted items, like certain key things about the area, like hiding spots look like they appear in gold, enemies will be in red like you see there, and any key items will probably appear as well. I don't see anything immediately. I do see there was like a fragment, another fragment that I can collect. I can actually see them through walls now too. Any guard that I guess any guard that I view in Eagle Vision will permanently appear to me until I leave the area. I guess that's a nice little addition. Okay, so I want to figure out how to get this thing here. Probably have to see. I'll try and climb this thing again, and then just work my way around here. Not really sure what these fragments mean, if what collecting them actually does. But yeah, we'll see. We'll learn as we go. I'm seeing something on my map. Oftentimes, yeah, one of the things about the overworld here is that I'll see something on the map. I have to just figure out how the heck to get to it. So I'm seeing a page on my map right now, and I'm wondering where that is. These guards seem to be spooked. I was trying to hide in there. Okay, that's the way to get in the crowd here. They made it so that in a previous Assassin's game, they made it so that any group of people of, like, I believe it's 3 or more, or maybe 2. Any group of people, you can hide in there, use it like hiding in the crowd. Okay, I gotta... So normally in the beginning of the game, certain things that you need to do will be more difficult on the fact that, you're starting out, your character doesn't have a lot of... I want to get that chest, but I think I need to be not being chased by guards in order to actually collect that. Alright, gotta look for a place to hide. Alright, there it is. Like, yeah, it's a chest that I have to open, but I have to actually go incognito first. So I'll hide in this crowd here. Like there's a random courier in the area that I can. Whoops. Yeah, so part of me, making it hard to find find hiding spots, you know, to hide from guards. This is just like character's newness. He doesn't have certain abilities that a more advanced character, a more upgraded character would have that would allow him to escape guards. Part of it is just my newness to the game and trying to figure out certain aspects about it. Am I gonna have to kill these guards just to get this chest? Yeah, there are a lot of things that I like about this environment here. I'm observing this. It's really there are a lot more ways to get to the rooftops now, like those stairs that we saw before. Makes it easy to get onto the rooftops and then escape. Alright, so how I can tell that the guards are still alert and looking for me is that icon in the corner of the top left is yellow, means that they're alert, and also my mini-map is highlighted yellow. If they can see me, then those icons will be red, and neutral is just gray, uncolored. So those are certain aspects of the game that I'm looking for. So I'm wondering, alright, as long as the guards aren't seeing me, I should be able to get in there. So this is a restricted area. If the guards see me at all, they will immediately attack. So you can see that highlighted red on my map. And I just have to sneak in here and then I can collect this stuff in the chest. Yeah, so that guard, if he spotted me, he would immediately attack. Luckily, he did not see me. Come back here, I can either just try and knock him out, or I can just escape from the rooftops. Maybe that's a better option. Yeah, I don't think he's going to come back. He's just returning from trying to chase me, just guarding that entrance. Yeah, so we're still in the beginning of the game. There are a lot of things to unpack all at once. And I'm like observing a ton of different things all at the same time. So I'm trying to figure out like what I should actually comment on first. Plus I'm gonna be, you know, interrupted with new things, and as I'm playing, I'm still working out how to, you know, continue to work on my current thought while also working on any new information that comes up. So I'm not sure if I finished my thought on how the game is focused on, or how the overworld is similar, very similar to most of the Assassin's Creed games, except for Assassin's Creed 3. Because Assassin's Creed 3 took place in Boston and New York, which are relatively newer cities, less densely packed, it made the traversal of those cities kind of a problem. In that game, you're actually more encouraged to just walk on the ground and use like horses, you know, go on horseback, or okay, so something got interrupted, I guess. That sort of little cutscene was how that mission would normally end. And something happened that caused it to not formally end in that way. Alright, so I see a chest on here. Hear a little twinkling, telling me that there's a chest nearby, so I'm gonna find it. I don't have to find it, but I think I will. Let's see, maybe it's over here. Curious, where the heck is it? Oh, right below my feet, of course. Well, I guess the point of my discussion regarding the cities here, and the cities in other games, is that I definitely prefer it the way it was before Assassin's Creed 3, with the more densely packed cities, making it really easy to traverse across rooftops rather than having to just go on horseback on the ground. It just doesn't seem right. You're an assassin in those games. You have learned all your life how to parkour, how to do free running, which are the terms that are used to describe, running across rooftops. It's a term used to describe the most efficient way to get from one area to the next. So, in the presence of a lot of buildings, that could mean having to climb those buildings and then really quickly traverse over them, or jump from building to building. That has always been a staple of the Assassin's Creed games, and how you can traverse the open worlds and the open cities environments. And then Assassin's Creed 3 kind of took that away a bit. Still had the cities, and you still had some capacity to do free running across rooftops, but your ability was greatly neutered just because the buildings were so far apart. Oftentimes there was literally no way to get from one building to the next. Like here, even these gaps are filled by these wires here. There are tons of ways to actually get between buildings. So Havana, I'm thinking Havana it's in the New World just like Boston is, but I guess it's a smaller city, so it's able to have gotten more densely packed in a shorter span of time. Yeah, I greatly prefer it this way. Assassin's Creed 3 was kind of the weird oddity of the series in that respect. I don't mean to knock Assassin's Creed 3. It's not viewed as most people's favorites, of course. I mean, a lot of people heavily criticized Assassin's Creed 3 just for being not really that great with what it was trying to do. The best stuff that introduced, of course, was the naval combat. It's greatly expanded in this game. Like, we have Assassin's Creed 3 essentially to thank for that stuff, and without Assassin's Creed 3, it may not have appeared in this game, and there may not have been Assassin's Creed 4 to focus on the naval combat. So I'm glad Assassin's Creed 3, the developers who made that game, worked out that concept to then iterate and perfect in this game. You can have an entire game centered around something that's really cool the series has not experienced yet. Then again, the other stuff in that game, and I'm talking about it now because I just finished it. It's fresh in my mind, unlike the previous Assassin's Creed games before it, 2 and Brotherhood and Revelations, Assassin's Creed 1. Those games are a lot less fresh in my mind just because it's been a while since I played those games. But Assassin's Creed 3, in general, I liked it. But there, it's deeply flawed. The Assassin's Creed stuff about it, the stealth stuff, the assassinations, the missions, a lot more directed than they need to be, and a little too linear for my taste. And the new stuff introduced, there were some hits and misses. The hunting, I thought was a nice novelty at first. The natural environments, hunting animals, skinning them. But there wasn't really that much of a reason to do that stuff. It didn't give a great enough incentive to do that. I think the first thing I want to do, I'm trying to talk but also concentrate on what I should do first in the environment. And I think I want to get to as many viewpoints as possible. So I'll just focus on that for now. There's the next viewpoint. I think that's why Assassin's Creed 3 didn't really strike me all that well, just because, while I did like it, the Assassin's Creed staples it didn't really handle all that well, didn't really make them any better. The way it handled assassinations and those missions just didn't really add anything in that respect, I don't think. And it was greatly more of an iteration as far as those elements. But the stuff that did add, hit or miss, balanced out. Naval missions balanced out by kind of mediocre hunting mechanic that was added in there. I mean, with a long running series, 7 games in any entry in the series will want to iterate at the core elements, the free running, the assassinations, the missions, the things like that. They want to iterate, keep those core elements intact, perfect them, while also introducing new stuff. So the stuff, Assassin's Creed 3 introduced naval stuff, fantastic, loved it. Oh crap, I actually forgot to synchronize. While the hunting stuff seemed promising at first, but ended up being a little lackluster for me. You can tell that Assassin's Creed 3 was like meant to be a huge entry in the series. Like, I think Ubisoft may have wanted it to be a big tentpole release in the series, just because of how much that game added. Big things like what I mentioned before, but also a lot of little details, like we've seen in this environment. We've already seen a day-night cycle. We've seen it go dark into night and then back to sun rising again here. That was actually introduced in 3. Like, in 3 introduced that day-night cycle. Before Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's games would just take place in the day or whatever prefixed time in the day that a mission would have to take in place. They didn't have dynamic day-night cycles just for the overall world. Assassin's Creed 3, I believe, introduced that in there. Also introduced a lot of little details like animals and small children would appear in the world. And those little details weren't necessarily a part of previous Assassin's games. So we're seeing another pirate thing to do. Alright, so that's the running assassination that I wanted to accomplish. And just like the general movement as well as the combat, it just didn't feel like it got that quite right compared to the Assassin's game that came before it. Like, combat felt clunkier, the free running traversal felt clunkier as well. It's hard to describe that exactly without really thinking about it and pinning down why those things didn't work as well. But just like in general, I feel like there were a lot of footfalls, a lot of climbing things and climbing notches that my character should have easily grabbed onto, but then so for some reason or other failed to. Like he didn't. Connor in Assassin's Creed 3 just didn't move the way I wanted him to. Like it's just the traversal wasn't perfect, and you know the game can add as many things as it wants, and they can all be great. But if it can't get the core elements right, then that's a big problem. It just feels a little bit off. Assassin's Creed 3 felt off in that regard. The American Revolution time period was great. I love that time period. I love learning about it. As far as it interacting with gameplay, like doing your assassin thing, hiding in crowds, doing stealth stuff, it didn't really fit the time period. It didn't really work with the sort of line. What were they? Line battles? What were they called? These sort of standoff gun battles where each army would form lines and then prepare to shoot. Like the traditional Assassin's Creed gameplay didn't mesh very well with Assassin's Creed 3. With Assassin's Creed 3's, American Revolution time period, with that style of warfare, didn't really mesh very well with that. So you ended up having to deal with those environments in very specific and very linear ways. So whenever you entered a mission, you really had to deal with the game with that mission pretty much exactly the game wanted you to, rather than you formulating a plan of how to approach a specific target, or whatever the mission had you want to do in a specific area. Normally, Assassin's Creed game, you could observe your environment and find your target or find your objective, and then plan out how are you going to cross the buildings, how are you going to take out guards, specific ways. Because of that, American Revolution warfare setting, and because the environments were so sparsely populated with buildings and people, it's like, yeah, sure, you're an assassin, but you're out in the open wilderness. You're out in these really wide streets without a lot of hiding places. So any sort of assassin couldn't really be an assassin effectively in those environments and in those settings. It just made it really difficult and awkward, I felt. And that's largely why Assassin's Creed 3 is only, at best, it's okay. It's good. I don't think it's a total failure, but it failed at a lot of things, and it was deeply flawed. And most of the Assassin's Creed games, of course, had their own unique things that they introduce. The series kind of got more complicated with every release. Every release would add one thing or another, and layer on top of that formula. Add more. So, Brotherhood Assassin's was the big release. Everyone loved Assassin's Creed 2 from Assassin's Creed 1. Assassin's Creed 1 felt like a foundation, really, but not that much of a game. I would say it's a game. I did like Assassin's Creed 1, but it felt very bare bones. It didn't have a voice yet. It just had a lot of different systems that were interesting, but it didn't really make it work together in a really cohesive way. Assassin's Creed 2 was the big release that made all those systems work and gave you a story that mattered, characters that you cared about. Like Ezio was the main character. Ezio was such a good character, an interesting character, that they had 3 games surrounding him, right? Brotherhood and then Revelations, whereas character of the first game, Altair, He's kind of a stoic, generic character, not much to say about him. Okay, so I'm learning, and normally, like, when you do a sync point, okay, in this game it does it a little different, so that's why if you're wondering why I am synchronizing towers that I've already synced at, it's because it does it a little different and I'm not used to it. So if it's black, dark, that means I haven't synced with it yet. And if it's white, that means I have synced with it. Okay. So that's I have to keep that in mind so I don't keep syncing with the same towers over and over. And it's a new game, still getting used to it, so pardon my dust here. Or you have a tavern there. General store. So again, Assassin's Creed 2 made sense of all those systems that, fleshed them out, added new things. Brotherhood, then again, made everything cool once again. I think Brotherhood is my favorite game thus far. Maybe Assassin's Creed 4 will change that because a lot of people speak highly of it. A lot of people speak highly of Assassin's Creed 4, but before I make my verdict, so far Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is my favorite. Just because it just took what Assassin's Creed 2 did and then ran with it even further and made it even more complex. It was just the right amount of complexity. Brotherhood introduced it's about the Brotherhood, the Assassins, and how that group functions. It allowed you to form your own group, your own Brotherhood of Assassins, and train them up, make them better. As you train them, they would gain more abilities, and they could actually help you out on missions, so all that stuff was really, really amazing. Brotherhood also made the overworld more cohesive by making it just one giant city. It's placed in Rome, and it just, instead of having multiple different environments that you could that were kind of separated, you would travel between them, and then I think Assassin's Creed 2 had Florence and Romagna, and I can't remember exactly what else. A lot of different famous Italian places, but all those cities were separate. They were, smaller. There were obviously small portions of those cities that were relevant to what you needed to do, and you could travel between them. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood made one giant environment, and that you're in one giant city that you could seamlessly walk through, without having to load or travel between anything. And this allowed you to also, ride on horseback within the city walls, which is something you could not do in Assassin's Creed 2. Yeah, there were a lot of ways that and a few other things that made Assassin's Creed Brotherhood really cool. It made that formula the best thus far. Now, Assassin's Creed Revelations tried to add even more to that formula by adding tower defense things to what your Brotherhood needed to do. You would establish, whenever you control a sector of or a district of a city, it would come under the control of the assassins, and then the Templars, meanwhile, might want to take that control away, and they would attempt to attack those strong assassins' strongholds in the city. And when that happened, you had this tower defense section where waves of enemies will try to reach your base, and you'd have to defend them by throwing enemies and weapons at them. It was really clunky. I think it was just Ubisoft trying to take advantage of the